Welcome back to Chit Chat. I'm the AI Chitbot. I come up with chits of topics for the hosts to choose from and also fix any mistakes they make. I'm constantly learning, so please be patient with me. Before we start today's podcast, I wanted to give a small disclaimer. The contents of this podcast are not meant to hurt or offend any group of people. If it does, then we truly apologize. Let the chit chat begin.
Welcome back, everyone.
So, to kick things off, there's a lot of shit that happened this past week. One of which I think we really should talk about, right? Apple released some mediocre stuff again.
The iPhones that have a slight difference, but a price increase. So it's not technically a price increase. It's the iPhone 15. I think that's the one you're referring about, the Pro Max. They just got rid of the 128 gig option, which is kind of stupid because that's the one I usually go for. I don't need that extra storage capacity. So they just got rid of that, and then they kept the 256 gig as the base version for the Pro Max.
Well, the way I see it, they're still taking $1,000 of my dollars. I voluntarily gave it, but it is what it is. I hear the cameras are nice. They're getting a little bit of an increase there.
I think it's wild that 128 GB is not enough for people on their phones. Remember the time when we used to have actual physical hard drives to fill with movies and data, and that used to be around the same memory capacity. We do. Where do you think this is getting saved? Like this podcast is getting saved.
I will raise you. I'll raise both of you. I used to have to carry around a floppy disk. Okay, this is the save icon in documents, and it was a crapshoot on whether whatever you saved to that device was still there when you needed it. So we didn't have a computer at home, so at school we would take it, save it, take it to the library, and it wouldn't work. But I think we're getting a little bit off track here. So, but going back to storage capacity, I always opt for the 128 gigabyte anyways. 1 year I went to 256, but I'm still not at 128. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on whether the storage capacity is even a big deal?
Yeah, upgrading storage capacity is not so much because, there's iCloud storage and there's also Google Photos where I back up most of my photos. But yeah, even iCloud got an upgrade, right? Like iCloud got the 6 terabyte and I think the 8 terabyte options
Holy cow.
a month. And I'm like, monthly payments, but overall storage is 6 to 8 terabytes or something like that, which is pretty cool. Not going to lie. More options because I'm on the Google One plan and they have I think a 2 terabyte or 10 terabyte is the max. There's no in between. So if I ever have to upgrade my family, it's going to be a big one.
Personally, I think the biggest thing I'm excited about, honestly, is just the way it's going to feel. I think the whole thing is switching from glass back to titanium. Hopefully feels nicer. Hopefully feels better. I'm of the mindset where once I get the phone, it's going in a case. Maybe this will convince me otherwise.
I mean, it's supposed to be an aerospace grade, I think T5 titanium or something like that. It's supposed to be lighter because it is titanium. I don't think it will be extremely strong, but I think it will be better than what stainless steel was for sure.
Oh, sure. Okay. I will say, man, I think devices in general now, you can start seeing that they're reaching kind of a steady state as far as form factor goes in the shape of a phone, much less. And I don't know, maybe they've reached that. I'm thinking MacBooks, right? They haven't really changed the form factor in who knows how long at this point.
I still remember the iPhone 4 is when they changed the whole shape of the phone, and that used to be the coolest. I remember my dad getting one because no one at that time, in the family, and no one had iPhones, so all of us kids had iPods. But seeing that phone was so amazing. We're like, oh my god, it's rectangular with curved corners. You could play so many games, and I think it was just the best redesign in my opinion for the iPhones. Yeah, it was squared off, right? It was super nice. It was nice, yeah. And I think that's what they did with the 10, right? That's when they went back to that design. I think similar to that, and then I think we're continuing that. But you know what's really cool? I think you mentioned camera a little bit. The camera's got a little good upgrade. My favorite part about this is
the 48 megapixel shooter.
I feel I get excited whenever I get an opportunity to take pictures. So hopefully this makes it where I can take better pictures of my kid, take better pictures of, I don't know, scenery,
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
I think this is significant, but as someone that doesn't like that's not immersed in tech itself, I think that I haven't really noticed the change in picture quality in the last couple of years, and that's maybe just because I don't know how to use the tricks of the trade and like adjust the settings. One thing I do use, since I do have an Pixel device, is like the magic eraser features and stuff like that, and night sight, which have been amazing. But other than that, like I haven't. It's been a while since I've like looked at a photo that I've taken and been like, oh my god, this is night and day. I think the last time I felt that way genuinely, and it was like 100% night and day difference, was when like the smartphone game changed when the Galaxy S3 came out. Like, do you remember that time when it was just all crazy? And I think that hype hasn't
Yeah.
really been there since.
So just a little perspective though, right? From the Galaxy S3 moment, or I guess Galaxy S3 came with it, I think a 12 megapixel camera, right? And back in the days where like 12 megapixel, we don't care about pixels. At least that's what Apple's main thing was, right?
It was like image processing, yeah.
Yeah. It's the processing. Big deal. Fine. All the iPhones until basically this year had still their main shooter was still a 12 megapixel shooter. And now they're upgraded straight to 48 megapixel. So you'll see like progress, right? I mean, it's not going to be night and day again. I don't think that's what it's going to be. But yeah, overall, they also had like thinner bezels, which that's the one that I'm personally like.
You can notice it. I mean, there's not much of a bezel to begin with, but I mean,
it's gotta give that immersive feel, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like end to end, all screen kind of a thing. And I think they're trying that, but I don't think that was the biggest update this year around. The 15 Pro Max and the 15 Pro regular also got a new chip. I think they call it the A17 Pro because everything is Pro branding now. But for me, I think the cheaper version of the iPhone got more this year. So one of the cool things that they got is I think they got the same 48 megapixel lens, but they also got better battery than last year. They went from, and Apple doesn't give out milliamp hours, right? So it's just 20 hours of battery life versus expected time. But this year it's 24 hours of battery life, and that's 4 hours of their estimate. So even if we half it, that's 2 extra hours in real life, right? That you're getting.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. And they got all the stuff that last year's iPhone had. Even the chip from last year's iPhone Pros came to the smaller iPhone.
So would you say that really the big difference is going to be right battery life, maybe some processing on the camera because you probably have less housing space for these sensors, and I'm not even sure what else is the difference here.
So the difference becomes, and very technical. That's why people just always like the cheaper iPhones are the ones that get sold easily.
So you're saying it's not the price? You're saying it's not the $1,000 price tag that incentivizes people?
The difference is like $200, right? Well, might as well spend that $200.
That's mighty privilege talk right there.
$700 for the phone, but it's only $300 more for the Pro. But while you're there, it's only $150 more for the Max.
Yeah.
And then it's like $300 more for MacBook Pro.
Okay, listen to me, right? Like, hear me out. You guys talked about it, but like privilege that, oh, it's only $300. I have privilege. But if you think about it, most of us buy it straight from the Apple store, right? Like people who know technology or at least are in the know. But majority of the people who buy iPhones in general, they buy it from their carrier, and carrier always has those deals, right? Upgrade, and you're paying like $300 or something, but be stuck with us for 2 years. And people don't upgrade every year either. So there's going to be more people who would rather pay like $10 a month more or $5 a month more than not have the latest and greatest. And I think with iPhones, it's more like a pride thing, right? That I have the latest one, maxed out version, like the Pro Max.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I don't personally have that experience. I don't know. It's just honestly just gotten to a point where like I just know every year comes out, I'm gonna get it because there's always something new that I can try.
Yeah.
I will say this is the first year I was kind of on the fence but I decided, who am I kidding? I'm gonna get it anyways.
Well, there's one reason why you should definitely get it, and we haven't addressed that yet. It's USB Type C. My wife and
That's
I can be using the same cable. It simplifies everything for me.
It's actually funny. I never put those pieces together. So we are both divided houses, just in the opposite ways.
Yeah.
My wife is an avid and a diehard, I guess I'll call it, Google or Android user. I mean, I think she's never owned an iPhone, and I've tried to convince her, hey, I will buy you the phone every year. She's like, I'd rather die.
This is the internal wars that keep happening
Yeah.
in our houses.
But no more.
No
You
more.
know,
No
Type
more.
C.
We have Type C. Type C is that bridge. I'll thank EU for that. You did a great job. Just forcing Apple's hand to give everything Type C. The regular iPhone has USB 2.0 speeds, so it's slow as hell. But the iPhone Pro has USB 3.0, which is a lot faster, but it's not the fastest. Like for all the promotion and pro talks that they had throughout the keynote, it's not the fastest USB connection.
Oh, interesting. I guess I don't. I'm one of those people that, I just charge it overnight. I go to sleep. I wake up. It's at 100%.
It's more for data transfer. Like these pro photographers, you could also have record while you're plugged into a solid state drive or something like that.
I definitely look into charge speeds. As someone that commutes, it's very important to know that my phone's going to charge it's fast, because on the commute, I'm not ever without my headphones, listening to music, listening to other podcasts, or watching a movie. And even during work, I have my headphones consistently in. And I don't always have the opportunity to plug my phone in. So if I need to have a 20-minute window where I could actually charge my phone, I don't want to have my phone or my headphones die on the commute back, because being on the train with no headphones is a pain.
I think we found a good use case for these charge speeds. I just don't have one, but that's not bad. Okay.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, I think what he mentioned about headphones, right? Apple has a pair of headphones called AirPods that everyone knows, right? So the AirPods 2 got an upgrade as well during this keynote.
How can you upgrade headphones? I'm like,
well, better hardware, right? But this one actually nothing changed in terms of the hardware.
okay, because I'm like, audio quality has been very good, and again, this is coming from a guy who doesn't really listen much to things that require it. But sorry, go ahead.
No, but I mean, nothing changed. It's the same exact AirPods. But what changed is they changed the charging case to have USB-C.
Okay.
So everything can be one cable.
Their full
MacBooks were already there. iPads were already there. I think iPad started it. And then MacBooks joined in. And now the iPhones and the AirPods are also doing that.
My iPad that's collecting dust is Type C. I can confirm that.
But they were really sneaky. And I think they were sneaky about a couple of things throughout the keynote. So with the upgrade that they didn't mention on stage, but it's actually a big deal, is the AirPods 2 has a feature that's actually compatible with Vision Pro. So the Apple's Vision Pro supports lossless audio. And these new AirPods with the USB-C case are the only ones that are compatible. So even if you have AirPods 2, doesn't mean it's going to work.
Wow.
Yeah. And that brings me to another sneaky thing that they did this year. They released a new blood sugar sensor, a monitoring sensor on their watches, but I don't know how accurate it's going to be.
I'd be curious to hear how that how it could do anything with your blood by just being on your wrist.
It's a non-invasive one. There's some on the market, but they're just not that good. And I don't think that the Apple one's going to be good either, because it's just so hard, right? Apple's really good at health stuff, no doubt about it. But you need next level team, right? You need a hardware team specially dedicated for these extreme science things. So I think Google had a spin-off company called Virility, where it would look at your eyes and detect blood sugar level. So you wear a contact lens, and it will detect blood sugar levels.
That's pretty cool.
So I think you would still need hardware. Yeah.
So it's an indirect method, I get.
Yeah.
Well, the contact lens, that feels more direct, but okay. So that's pretty cool. I will say I have the Watch 5, so I'm excited about some of the other things that are on there. I mean, upgrading every 4 to 5 years has been kind of my thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm. What are you guys most excited about?
So I think I've heard a little bit about the glucose sensors from like different aspects. Like I've had some friends that have the need for these monitors, and I think the way these works is like they have a little electrical current that draws glucose and other things into patches of your skin, and then tests it out that way. I still, like we said, don't think these are the most accurate.
Wait, so you think that my Apple Watch is going to shock me?
I was gonna ask, would you feel it?
No, it's non-perceptive. Like you won't feel it
Oh, that
at all.
sucks.
You want to know every minute?
Man, you're into some weird stuff.
I mean, not to go too far on a tangent here, have you guys heard of these massagers, like for your shoulders and stuff, that are based off like electrical currents? And so what it does is just kind of like forces like a reflex.
Oh, like a contracts your muscles and
Yeah.
yeah.
And so like those are.
I've seen those used for multiple things. One of which being like pregnancy simulators, just so like some guys know how it feels to be given birth.
Oh, I've seen those, but I think that I'm also due for an upgrade. I also have an Apple Watch Series 6, and for the listeners who don't know, I love mobile technology in general. So I have an iPhone and I have a Pixel 7 Pro. So I always keep the latest ones. So I have a Pixel Watch and I also have an Apple Watch Series 6, and I love my Apple Watch and the Pixel Watch, but it's mostly the Apple Watch because it's so accurate when I go for a run and things like that.
Say the word, I'm buying 2.
So Series 9 is around, and I don't think it's time for me to upgrade yet, because I believe next year is going to be Series X, and I think Series X will bring some fundamental changes, right? It has to be a big release year. Like this year, they released it, but the new chip is what, 30% faster processor. I mean, that's, everyone says that, like it's every year it's 30% better. But the cool thing is this year you're getting peak brightness of 2000 nits. And for those, most people don't know this, but 2000 nits is a lot, right? Like,
don't know the standard benchmarks of nits, so I'm just gonna go with the fact that
I was
that's
gonna ask the
awesome.
same question. Like, what's a nit?
It's like a brightness metric.
Okay.
So most phones are about 1300 to 1400 nits, and you can, when it's outside, like peak brightness, right? Like you
go all the way up is
all the way up is 1400. Some go up higher. I think the previous watch was at 1000 nits. This one is at 2000, and that's pretty good. That's like, you can properly see it in peak sunlight, which is good because you're going to be running around and doing things, right?
I think that's pretty useful.
So
I guess
the real question is this, right? And I'm sure everyone's thinking it. Does it make it easier to find the watch? I don't know. Or can I find it easier, or does it have any kind of functionality to help me find it?
so. I don't know about that. I don't think it will add a lot of like value to that. Just having your brightness up all the way. I think you'll need like speaker, right? Because you need that audio cue. But that does give us a good segue for the next thing. I think they added the ultra wideband in the Apple Watch, so it's more precision finding for your iPhone. So when you do your Find My iPhone from your watch, it will give you better directions. It can literally point you in the direction that you should be looking at,
That's pretty
because
cool.
it has the ultra wide band and all these technology. And that's one thing I really wish Google did with the Pixel phones. They have their Find My network launching soon. I'm guessing probably on October 4th event that they have. But I really wish that more companies started using ultra wide technology.
I might skip this year, but I will say the things that Apple's thinking about, I'm glad they're on the right track. I would definitely like to have more health stuff that kind of just happens in the background. I don't have to think about it, which is what kind of Apple's model feels like overall. And on top of that, I want it to be where I'm not. I think I'm getting close to a full ecosystem, but I'd like to see. I don't know how well they kind of talk to each other.
Apple is
But
definitely leaps and bounds ahead in terms of ecosystem. I would say because they have a good suite of products, right?
Mhm.
Like I think the Pixel team is too young. Samsung would be the only competitor in terms of ecosystem because their ecosystem kind of goes from TVs, dishwashers, laundry machines, all the way to phones and stuff. Another gimmicky thing that they introduced was double tap, which was you double tap on the finger and then it'll select stuff, which is pretty weird, right? They had it for accessibility in the previous generations, but Apple said it was just not good enough. So this new S9 chip, that's the only chip that can basically detect it, even though the previous chips with the accessibility setting already kind of did that, but they're restricting it in a classic Apple fashion,
You have to give it up to Apple, man. They always find a new way to just rebrand the same thing over and over again. Like at this point, you can't even be mad at them.
Yeah.
Like there's a like even this Apple event, there's a plethora of features and things we talked about um during this podcast. But how much of this do you really think is going to be noticeable by the regular consumer?
Probably not a lot. I mean, the good part about Apple is that because they have their iOS, their iPhones running for so long. So like the iOS 17 dropped today, and all the features will go to most of these iPhones, so it can go back 6 years. So basically, all iPhones from 10x kind of support iOS 17, but they do want you to upgrade. So uh, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, you can't do this pinch gesture. That pinch gesture, I think they're also trying to like psychologically getting you ready for the Vision Pro because what are the controls for the Vision Pro? The tap gesture, the double tap
oh
gesture,
yeah,
and all those
absolutely.
gestures. So
That's not bad. That's pretty sneaky. But so I'll say I think in overall, right? So good releases in my mind. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I
I enjoyed
think
the iPhone.
decent releases. Really quick sneaky roundup that I want to do. All the sneaky things Apple did for the Vision Pro because that's the cool thing that
Yeah.
everyone wants. Hopefully it releases in March. But the three sneaky things they did was the AirPods 2 with lossless audio is that's the new one is the only one compatible with the Vision Pro. Then uh the double tap gesture kind of like psychologically training you for the interface of the Vision Pro, and then the new iPhone Pros can are the only ones that can record spatial video for the Vision Pro as well. So
I like that. Yeah. In a nutshell, that's basically conditioning us for. And in the Vision Pro, when they had a release date for that, right? When's that coming out?
I think they said next year, like early next year, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, it's not a specific month or anything. Okay,
No.
so they'll probably talk more about it in their March event, which
Yeah.
right, I think there's the events in March or something.
Usually
Normally,
they have it in March.
yeah.
But yeah, that's basically all the Apple stuff. I think we should move on to the chits.
Yeah, let's do it. Who wants to draw one?
I could take the lead on this one. All right. Ooh. Okay, let's see what we have in the chits for us this week. Let's see what people want to hear about. Ooh. This is not something you guys are probably going to be familiar with, but based on your limited amount of time on TikTok. But quick question: how many times a week do you guys think about the Roman Empire?
A little bit too much, actually. Not well. If you narrow it down to on a weekly basis, there are some weeks where I don't, but some weeks where I think about them a lot. To like actively seek out and look up like Wikipedia pages on specific topics or on Netflix or something. But I would say on average, every other week or probably I do think about them. Why? What's up?
What do you mean? I'm so confused. Like what kind of question is that? By the way, just my answer would be I don't actually think about the Roman Empire, but I do think about the pyramids a lot. Like it drives me
That's
insane sometimes how much I
that's
think about the pyramids.
that's shocking. So the wild trend on TikTok is um significant others ask their male spouses, how many times of a week do they think about the Roman Empire? And everyone is shocked that like normally the boyfriends in the relationship think about the Roman Empires like 2 to 3 times a week or maybe a couple of times a day. I'm actually part of that group where I genuinely think about the Roman Empire 2 to 3 times a week.
What do you mean?
Oh, I was gonna say, I thought you were thinking about daily. So, yeah, I think that let's unpack that a little bit. What specifically?
I think it's just like random. Like I don't actively think about like, oh yeah, like Caesar, but I think little things that I do in my life remind me of it. Like, sometimes I'll be on a road and hit a pothole, and like I think the one of the thoughts that would come into my head after, God damn it, would be, the Romans built roads that are still standing till this day, but my city can't get a pothole that would, or like a road that would have no potholes.
Having been to Rome, I will say those roads weren't driven on by
Heavy
as
cars.
heavy vehicles as we have. One, but also on top of that, like I respect the fact that there is history, and then that country, Italy, in case you guys couldn't figure it out,
Yeah.
protects their like historic not only landmarks but also like just historic cities, right? Rome is what is it, the city, the oldest city, but there, I mean, I went there, and I will tell you right now, Rome is a great place. But when I think of Rome, I always think of it in a sense. I always think of Caesar. To be honest, I default to him. Some of the things, like when I was thinking about July, for example, being named after him. Our entire calendar, for God's sakes, is named after. Like, it's revolved around how Julius Caesar and him, like how the Roman thought about the calendar.
And that's nothing compared to the salad, man.
Oh, dude, Caesar salad.
I'm
Actually,
not a
kind of
fan.
mad.
Yeah.
No,
I'm more
it's
of a Southwest kind of a guy.
it's
But
mad,
yeah,
but it is the go-to salad. It is the salad that you pick
it's
on a
a
dinner.
salad that everyone will put on their menu.
Yeah,
Yes.
100%. Like that is like the white bread of salads.
I will say, when I can't think of one, that's the first name
Yeah.
that does come to mind, for sure.
No, I think it's also like I think yeah, it's right that like it was preserved, the roads and stuff, but I think after hundreds of years, no matter what preservation, if this road is still standing, it still pisses me off that I have to change 2 tires this year.
Oh man, that's I mean, that's just rough, dude.
I also feel like that's a driving issue. Maybe you need to learn how to drive or drive on better roads. Where are you going, man?
Hey man.
Now the question is this, right? When you replace the tires, right? I hope, because listen, you already lost 2 tires. Did you lose one on the front and then one on the back, or did you lose them on the front twice?
I lost them on the back twice.
Or that was option 3, I guess.
Yes.
That sucks, because when you first got a flat, you probably had to swap the
Yeah,
other one
and
out, right?
it was the worst times possible because it was on my commute, and the thing was that it just like made me rethink my whole career, my whole life, that why am I doing this 9 to 5, which prompted my second thought. In Rome, if it's not known by you guys, the gladiators chose to be there. They were not slaves.
I don't know about
Wait,
that.
seriously?
Yeah, a lot of the gladiators that fought in the arena chose to fight in the arena.
Well, for what? Like, what do you get out of this?
Glory,
Oh, I get that. I get
pride,
that.
and it just goes to show that there were men well before me that were willing to fight and die instead of doing a 9 to 5.
And you choose to complain about your 9 to 5.
I do, because they did as well, but they just had an outlet to just like go out and go to the Colosseum.
And die.
That's interesting. So would you say that, like, I mean, I don't know the numbers here, then it's got to be like, I mean, the people who are the career gladiators who chose to be there, who, for lack of better words, like chose violence, they're the ones that probably already like were pretty jacked, pretty ripped.
Oh yeah, I don't think this is like, hey, like this is like the bread maker that's like, you know what, I don't like doing this every day in, day out. I think these were like war generals or like soldiers, part of the Roman Empire, that were like, I'm going to test my steel and appease the gods. Because with the Roman Empire, there's a lot of god-based stuff as well. A lot of mythos that plays into it.
Have you guys seen the movie Gladiator by chance?
I have, but I don't remember anything of it.
You're gonna hate me, but I have not.
So at some point when we're done recording, whether it be today, whether it be next week, something, we're watching this movie.
Okay.
We're adding it to the list
Yeah.
of movies for sure.
Wait, I know the actor who
Gerald
played.
Butler.
Was it Gerald Butler with
It
the
was.
gladiator? Yeah,
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. That's
Why
the one I
is-
was
I
thinking.
always
Yes.
confuse those two.
Gerard Butler. I think you're thinking of 300. I'd recommend you watch it. He won. I think he won an award for that as best actor. But I think that won best movie that year too. But regardless, I think when I think of Roman Empire, I always think of. I get a little bit triggered sometimes because high school English, you have to read Caesar, or what is it called, the Shakespeare book, Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
I did not have to read that.
And so I just remember like not enjoying that book.
I think it was a good book to read in high school because it described a lot of like guy friendships. Just some dudes in high school are not there for you, and Mark Anthony proved that.
Brutus is what you meant.
Brutus is what I meant. Yes, Brutus is.
Mark Anthony was out banging Cleopatra.
So you're telling me, as a
Yes.
person who thinks 2 to 3 times a day about the Roman Empire, did not know who betrayed Caesar.
Here's the thing. I did know. I just misspoke because et tu Brute is still a very common phrase that people use.
And Mark Anthony's also got some really good music.
Yeah. That music is what I listen
That
to in
aged
Spanish
it
class.
right
Did
there.
you know? No. Did you know that if you go to Mexico today, and then you go to a club, at some point they will play at least one Mark Anthony song. And that man, I don't know if he's released music or still releases music, but that man is iconic down there. There's one song that they always played. I wish I could tell you what it was called. I'll probably look it up here in a second. But going back to Mark Antony, I think he was married to Cleopatra, right?
You know,
and then I don't know. I'm basing off this Netflix show that I one day when I went down a rabbit hole. This Netflix show called, it's very imaginative and creative, The Roman Empire. Of what they do is they go over one emperor every season. They had one season with Caesar, so naturally I watched it, and they talked about how he had a relationship with Cleopatra, Mark Antony, whether it was a real one, like meaning like a legitimate one, or an affair, or he was like a Mr. Mistress. What would he be? I don't know. But it went into detail on it, but not too
I mean,
sure.
I think there was a lot of financial stuff as well. Like they basically messed around.
yeah, to that point. So you're right. Mark Antony and Caesar both had a relationship with Cleopatra. The way it came about with Caesar was that Caesar was actually chasing one of his opponents of war, if you would call it, that was trying to flee from him. And he kind of met with Cleopatra, who herself was still in a civil war of her own in Egypt. So they both tried. They both actually came together, and decided to finish off Cleopatra's civil war and put her as the pharaoh, or not pharaoh, but the leader of Egypt, and help Caesar win his fight. What ended up happening was, in order to entice him, she actually was smuggled into his chambers, and she dressed as one of the goddesses of her belief to entice him. And she did something very similar with Mark Antony as well.
Man, Cleopatra had a lot of love affairs and a lot of scandals. I don't know like how accurate all of these things are, like in the history books, but man, she was wild.
I don't think it's a fair comparison, but the only person that comes to mind when you're describing Cleopatra's level of not just sex appeal, but power, for me would be Marilyn Monroe. Like, her relationship with like a president that's already married, all the actors that were, prominent during that time. And I think that like kind of brings that's one of the topics that makes me think about the Roman Empire, of just like how the Romans were and how we are now, and the similarities between those two, like the mad patriotism patriotism and the range, like, with America being the melting pot it is, like the wide range of gods that we follow.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I will say, my last point on this will be that I personally think that there's a lot more to the Roman Empire that I learned indirectly from Assassin's Creed. They haven't done a game specific to the Roman Empire, which I'm excited for if they do at some point. But it's a part of a couple of the games, and you learn. I mean, they make up their own history a little bit, but there's a lot of cool stuff that goes on, especially when you explore some of the areas and when you talk to the people and you hear about the alternative history that they think of.
One thing that I'm very thankful to the Roman Empire is their beliefs or philosophy on discussing ideas. Because I do feel that some of my ideas and some of the things that I have done in my life wouldn't exist without following the same principle. One of which being that every idea should be discussed once while drunk and once while sober. I think we all could give it up to that idea because if the idea didn't exist, this podcast wouldn't exist.
That would be a good
Yeah.
topic. But I think it's time for a new chat. I think we should go for another chat. All right, so let's talk about aliens.
Big week for aliens, apparently.
Yeah, so much stuff. Like Mexico's Congress saw like a couple of aliens, or at least some dude just displayed some aliens. So let's go dig a little deeper into this. Like, let me go into some background. Sometime in July, I'm not 100% on the specific date, but they came up with the House Oversight Committee by the National Security, and this was like the first time they had like a in the United States a congressional hearing about UFOs since 1970. So I think it's pretty wild, right? Like when we haven't talked about something for almost 50 plus years, and we're finally talking about it, right? Addressing it, and this was a significant event.
I think wasn't it in like 2019 or 2020 is when like the Pentagon released some report that's like claiming that like there were some unexplained like objects like UAs, like
They
UAPs or
basically
something.
acknowledge the existence of it, but we haven't had any like proof or you know anything. Yeah.
The things I remember, like I mean, distinctly remember, and it's been referenced in pop culture, as well as conspiracy theories, all that kind of stuff. All this starting, I guess, for lack of better words, starting in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico, right? And I mean, this has been referenced a lot of times, right? About some sort of either like an alien plane crashing or something, or alien flying saucer, or whatever you want to call it, crashing and being taken to Area 51 in Nevada,
Yeah.
and it being like this super secret place that no one can know anything about. When you look it up on Google Maps, you see some stuff, but it's like, what else is there really? That kind of stuff.
Do you guys remember? I think it was actually around 2020 when the Pentagon released the statements of like unexplained flying objects or whatever. These like viral sensation of everyone saying that they wanted to rush Area 51.
Oh, is that
Oh,
is
yeah,
that why they
yeah.
wanted to do that?
Yeah, because they thought that like we're gonna go in there and like get ET out. Like that's what it was. Like every alien in pop culture, they wanted to release, and somehow like there's so many memes, there's so many videos. People were camping out in the desert to do this.
It's funny you said ET because the like images or at least the box of alien bodies that this person and I'll give his name. His name is Mausen, Jamie Mausen, and I'm butchering his name, but you know I, he presented these aliens bodies, right, that he found in Peru, and he said it had like algae all over it, and these bodies are like 1,000 years old. Uh, but the thing is that these bodies look exactly like ET. Like imagine ET elongated skulls. It has like the three fingers and like two eyes. I mean, it just looks exactly like ET.
And these are supposed to be extraterrestrials, right? So like they, I don't know if they've talked about where they think they originated from. All like talks about like any kind of interstellar travel, anything like that, is that if somebody is traveling to you, right, and if anyone gets to us, they must have better. They have to have better tech than us, right?
Yeah.
Like we can look out. We can't get past. We with a manned or unmanned, or potentially like unmanned of aircraft, we can't get past Mars, right? We have Voyager 1, which is the furthest anything is the furthest object from the Earth, right? And radio waves, we've only been able to travel.
I mean, radio waves are super slow, right? Like,
They still move at the speed of light, right? So the whole thing is that radio, because it just has a longer wave, but it'll still move at the speed of light. It's just that when you broadcast out, there's only so far that time would allow for it right now.
yeah,
Because
time
radio,
has to pass it.
yeah, because radio waves are, I think when was the radio invented, even if it was 100 years ago, right? 100 light years is really far for us, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not very far. And if some other civilization was able to get to us, land here, and be here for 1,000 years, it means that they've had some sort of. They're light years ahead of us, for pardon
Yeah.
the nomenclature there.
Yeah. And I mean, literally, like, if you think about it, so we'll talk about JB Mouset a little bit more, but before we do that, there was I think you talked about the UFO in Mexico, right, in 1947. There was another person, his name was, I think, El Balek or something, and he said he found two alien bodies crashed in a UFO, and said that he was working on a secret government project to retrieve them called Project Moondust at the time.
Oh man,
Why would it be Moondust? We haven't even been to the moon at this point, right? If you think about it.
yeah, in the 40s was
47,
this?
yeah.
Oh wow, okay, but that could be just like a code name for it. I mean, we still knew it was called the moon. We still named it the moon at that point, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
I think that one is not that big of a mystery because we knew we were in this like weird like race with like the Soviet Union at
I
that
don't think that
time.
race started at that point.
no.
Really?
The whole big thing, the big deal about the race was that I don't know if it was how long it took, but like
late
from
50s and early 60s is
Yeah.
when the race started.
Yeah, because like it was like one of those things where like it's cited pretty often as like we put a man on the moon because like it was a unified effort by not only us, but it was a race for like power, right? And so within my guess is in that case like 10 years we got to the moon.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And now like getting any kind of scientific research money has been really tough to do. I mean, we can talk about a lot of other ways that money is being spent these days, and how even if a fraction of that comes to fund this kind of stuff, we could get to Mars, right?
But this may be a tangent, but do you think that, let's assume that Al Bailik was right and they did find a UFO in 1947, do you think we use that technology to get to moon?
I mean, there's I don't know if it's to the moon, but it could be, because there's a lot to be learned from any kind of alien. I won't use the word alien technology here, right? But there's a lot to be learned from that, right? There's a lot of things you can reverse engineer, and who knows, there could be a lot of stuff that we're like propulsion, right? Like that kind of moving from, because like those propulsion engines could be used by powered by something that we didn't have it at that point had figured out or anything like that, right? But I think the biggest thing to think about is that I've when you have alien technology, it's easy to, or any kind of technology you don't understand, it's easy to scapegoat it as foreign, as alien, as something like that. But at the same time, like who's going to claim responsibility for it, right? Like if let's say back then, if Russia crash landed in our backyard, are they going to be like, yeah, sorry, this was us?
Yeah.
It's wild that how like when this information comes out and the more we talk about it, how close our reality gets to the Transformers movie franchise.
Why the Transformers movie?
I don't know if you guys have
Yes.
noticed,
Yes.
but like we're talking about, oh, aliens landed here, helped us get to the moon. Or when we went to the moon, like, in other conversations, like when we went to the moon, we made contact with some sort of other being or something. And that's very much something that has happened in Michael Bay's Transformer franchise.
to the point where like I don't know if they addressed in the first or the second movie or the third movie, but they're like, we've upgraded our technology based off of the technology of the Autobots. And they're like, oh yeah, we have this, because I forgot the
Their
specific
started
energy.
transforming into real robots?
Are you
This
talking
was
about Energon?
no, because remember like the oh my god, the cube
Yeah,
that they
yeah,
had, the first one that had emitted some sort of energy,
yeah.
and they're like, we have now built technology that can detect that energy and also reverse engineered some more sophisticated
That's wild.
guidance systems.
Don't mean to geek out on you, but that is Energon.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I I just
I thought you were saying that as a joke. I'm
no,
like, you
no.
jerk.
No, that's Energon. As someone that's watched a lot of Transformers as a kid, but I think that isn't it wild how similar like movies and our reality is now? Like when you look at this image of this alien, that is an alien you find on like cartoons, like stickers, like big head,
A little on the
big
nose
eyes.
too, right? It's a little on the nose.
Yeah, I like imagine you're like one of the first like like artists that like drew like aliens, what you think it's gonna be, and you're right. Like or what if in a more of a conspiracy theory aspect of it, what if we were communicated these images into like the
Like incepted those images in
like
our heads.
the zeitgeist, like that's how they communicated, and like that's just how we got this like idea.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about like, remember, we haven't been here that long, humans in general, right? If you think about, even if you think of it in the scope of like, let's say some civilization or some distant civilization, I'll talk about 2 points here, right? One is if a distant civilization figured this, like was able to kind of evolve and discovered electricity, right? Let's say 1,000 years earlier than us, 10,000 years earlier than us, right? The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. That is a tiny, tiny, tiny proportion of its life. And that's like less than a rounding error. And so if a civilization figured that out, imagine what we will or can accomplish in the next 10,000 years. And if some civilization did that, and let's even raise it 1 billion years ahead of us, right? There's a lot of talks about how that's something that's happened. And also on top of that, they're saying that we've been visited multiple times. So there's a famous painting by, I think it was either Michelangelo or Da Vinci or somebody from the Renaissance called the Madonna. And basically there's talks that there's just an object in the background, and they think it's a UFO. And it looks like I mean, if you look at it, it almost looks like it's edited in there to kind of symbolize some sort of like that kind of a device, or that kind of an aircraft. And it makes no sense for any kind of aerial objects to exist back then, right? Because of 1400s, 1500s.
I mean, you're sounding more and more like Mao-san over here. Dude, you're not gonna
Call me
believe
Mao-san,
this.
bro.
You're not gonna believe this, but in 2012, he claimed this again. Like before showing the bodies, he claimed it again that he found a body, and that body was like 4 feet tall and had 3 eyes and no nose. Now he found another set of bodies, and this time around, he found 3 bodies. One he's not showing to people, and 2 he is. So the bodies he's showing, I think he also named these things. I'm assuming he named them, but the one he's presenting is Clara and Moriko. That's what he named them. And then the third one is Victoria. So he sent out the DNA results, like he posted the DNA results of Victoria. And so this news publication, Reuters, they actually hired a scientist to look at these DNA results and all these results that he's sharing. And that scientist is like, yeah, it's like a normal human being. Like, there's nothing new about this.
You're telling me that this guy found proof of aliens twice on 2 separate occasions. Just this dude, like not people that spend their lives looking out into the sky.
No. I think the first time he said he was part of the government project to find them, and he found these bodies are found around the Peru area. And
I see. Okay,
but like I think this was Mexico's government. I think this was the first time Mexico's Congress held this kind of a session, and this guy basically wasted their time. So I think they're kind of like upset at him because, I mean, and it's funny because a lot of people who are really creative on like TikTok and Instagram, and they're also creative bakers. They actually made a cake version out of it. So the same ET looking kind of a person, they took a fork and is it cake or not? And did like a cake or not kind of a thing and just like made a cake out of it.
That's clever.
And they wasted no time with that one, huh?
Yeah, it was fast. It was
All right.
surprise, yeah.
I think aside from aliens, I think we need to talk about something else. So let's try to grab one more chit and see where we go from there.
All right. Well, I guess I'm the last one here. So let's see what I can pull. All right. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. Taylor Swift. And I think it says impact of Taylor Swift. So I'm gonna try to figure out what was meant here. But she's shown up a lot on like basically anywhere, right? Social media, TikTok, in the news, everywhere.
I think she's had a big year.
Yeah.
Her Eras tour, I think, did phenomenal. I think it like did some crazy numbers after like her re-releasing her album and everything. Big year for Taylor Swift, so I get the question.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting. Some good statistics to throw out there. But for example, like she's actually really good to her fans, from what I hear, and she's really good to her like what do they call themselves, Swifties?
Yeah,
Right?
Swifties.
So one of the like the best, I think, like if you guys ever seen like the VMAs or they used to have a group, an award for the best posse, and Taylor Swift, her army, I think, won quite a few times. But the thing is that she wants it to be accessible to everybody to go to her concerts, right? And so when she releases those tickets, I think she released them at a pretty decent price. Like, I mean, I don't know, I don't go to concerts that often, but like if I think about like general admission being like $50, I mean, it goes up pretty high, but being at $50, that seems like a good deal to me. I mean, secondary markets are a little bit tricky because immediately you're gonna scalp them. I had an old coworker that did pay that, but let me geek out here a little bit for you guys before I kind of hand it over. But basically, like, her impact to the economies is wild. All right, so like I did some mock-ups here, and basically, like, if you were to go to like the cities where she goes, right? She has, you have to buy a flight. You have to, for most cases, you have to buy a flight, stay in a hotel, etc. Because people are flying to see her. She's bringing in that weekend $200 million in like business, and that's
crazy,
wild. And that's not only to her concert, right? Her concert's a big portion because people are spending loads of money to be there, but like that's, I mean, for real
that's
talk,
a Super
right?
Bowl, a Super Bowl in every city.
Yeah, and that's like a weekend. And I mean, she's gonna be doing this until I think this tour ends for now, at least end of next year. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
End of next year?
I saw some dates going into November of next year. I mean, you can't buy anything for this year on.
I don't think you can buy anything for next year either.
Next year might be all secondary, and even then, it's like I don't understand it. I mean, I like some of her old stuff. I don't know. Do you guys listen to her music, or have you guys heard any of the new stuff?
I've heard her music. I've heard her new album, like the ones with like Taylor's version of things, and I'm just looking at like ticket prices, and I know she started selling them from like the range is $50 to $500, and on the secondary prices, these tickets are going from starting at $500 all the way up to $7,000.
Oh.
$7,000? Are we talking like US dollars?
This is just a wide range. Yeah.
Wait, is this US dollars or is
USD?
This a Turkish money or something like?
No, this is not like the Croatian kuna. Like, this is not like the Canadian dollars or peso. No, this is USD. 7,000 of them.
Man, that's crazy. That's wild. So, okay, so I have two stories about Taylor Swift concert. My wife's high school friend, she's actually a big Swiftie, and she has basically been to a lot of the concerts. I think she's one of those people who have actually been to her house as well, because I think Taylor Swift calls them over, like the top fans or whatever. And yeah, she has been to like I think 3 or 4 of the Eras tour, and I'm like, it's the same thing. Why are you going 3 or 4 times? But
that was even my question. If it's even worth it.
Yeah. Is someone told her about Spotify?
Yeah, right.
Like it's like a student plan. You could get it for like $10 a month. Like, Wow.
Yeah. And the other thing is, one of my colleagues at work, he also went to a Taylor Swift concert in Vegas. So he couldn't find anything in the city he lives in, but went to the one in Vegas with his wife and a couple of friends. And this guy, I don't think he's even a big music lover. I'm not gonna lie.
I think that's what it is, right? Like we said that 200 million, like hundreds of millions, like dollar figure in revenue for the cities. I think half of these people are traveling to go to these cities
Yeah.
Yeah.
to see this, and it's just so inspirational. Like I've had like I've seen videos of literal cities shaking because of like the uproar and fans that like the
Holy
sound
cow.
that they make
Yeah.
during the concert. Like it's like I can think previously you said it's a Super Bowl, and I think that's a very accurate, because there are fans that like who can't really afford the tickets or didn't get a chance to buy these tickets, that they tailgate this concert. There are people that wait outside in their cars out of these stadiums and tailgate Taylor Swift's concerts.
Wait, so they follow, like, and I'm assuming this means multiple cities. So they'll follow her to multiple cities and never go inside.
Yeah, some people will.
At face value, I would say that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, because like you're going to all these cities, you're not. It's significantly cheaper for you too, right? You're not spending $1,000 to $1,500 every single time you're going in.
Yeah.
And you're still getting the same experience, like because what that number I gave you doesn't account for is all the other stuff, right? What happens outside the concert because of her being there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I don't know how you get that value out of it, but like I will say, and actually a fun fact, Taylor and I share a birthday.
Whoa, that's cool.
I mean,
Wow.
she's a little younger than me, but yeah.
So how do you feel that like no one's lined up to see you like this?
The first few years after she made her thing, I was like, you know what, this hurts. But after that, you get used to it a little bit, right? When random people on the street aren't wishing you happy birthday on your birthday, you kind of get it. You get the
Yeah.
message at some point,
So here's a fun fact for you, and this one's just for you. Taylor Swift has broken more records than a Marvel movie, the Spider-Man movie. So you're not as good as Spider-Man or Taylor Swift.
Why does the Spider-Man thing hurt me more than the Taylor thing though? I don't know why.
I don't think it should. He lost his uncle. You have a good nice family.
So the fact that Taylor Swift, I mean, I will, when she released some of her older stuff, I really enjoyed, like, she was all over the radio, right? And back when I used to listen to the radio, it was a welcome sight.
There's this viral, not a challenge, but like it's a thing, like a ritual, or that all fans try to do at a concert, is they try to see how Taylor's coming into their concert. So like there has been times where Taylor has been snuck in a box, like a big audio box, and like they
So she steers into this.
Yeah, so like they wheel her in with her security guard, and everyone's like, "Oh, that must be it," or "That must be it." But like,
okay, that's dope.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, I want that kind of fan base, man.
That is a +1 for sure.
Yeah,
for Taylor in my book.
But imagine if this was like not a thing. Like she has just been chilling backstage all this time, and all
just
her
messing with all the fans.
yeah, and all her fans are like, "Yeah, those wires in that box? That's Taylor."
Oh my god, that changes everything. I thought she would show up, whatever, and right before he goes into her wardrobe or her dressing room or whatever it is, she
Vanity.
comes out and it's like, haha, this is it. This is how I made it. Dude, they don't get the answer.
They don't get the answer, man.
No, they have no answer. Like it's not like a game of Where's Waldo. This is just them guessing how she's entering the stadium.
Wow. I don't know what to say to that. That sounds so painful to me. Like there's no payoff to this.
So Taylor is super bossy. Is that what you're?
She is blue balling all of her fans every single time.
That's wild because like majority of them are female.
Well, that's
So I want to nerd out a little bit about like some of the tech stuff that Taylor also has for a concert. Like they take concerting to the next level. It's at a YouTube video from Cleo Abraham, but basically she has the same stage and all the components instead of, so most people, they would have, move all of the equipment and stuff right after the concert is done, and by the time it gets to the next place, and setup is done. But with Taylor's, that's not the case. I think she has created like 2 or 3 of the same items, of everything. And so she's created like 2 or 3 versions of this, and then they would leave from the city as she's concerting that same day and go to like 2 locations at a time, and they would start building the next setup, like sets up and winding it down for the old ones as well. So things are constantly moving, and that's why it's like next level of planning and processing of.
Yeah, so her logistics game is next level.
Yeah, literally.
Wow.
And she's also using like the same LED wristband things, like for basically entering that Coldplay and Lady Gaga had too. But she's also elevating that experience and like having like the weirdest light patterns and
Oh,
stuff
cool. Yeah.
on their wrists. So everything.
Oh yeah, you could see like a lit up stadium of 80,000 people with this wristband.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. And so back to our previous comment, like why do these people go to so many concerts or different concerts in different cities? So she has made it this exclusivity thing where each concert has 2 songs, either on acoustic guitar or a piano, that are a surprise. So each set is not the same as the previous one, and it's also like a cool, fun little experience where different celebrities come on to the shows. Like for each show, it's like I know one of them, like just in the general admission, were the stars of Grey's Anatomy, because they themselves couldn't get tickets. Like Aaron Rodgers was there. Like all these big stars have come up for the tour, and you could interact with them pretty much like regular people, because like just like for Swifties, it's just as hard for them to get tickets.
It's so crazy that Taylor is the celebrity for the celebrities. Like that's so cool. Like I wish I could ever ever be at that level.
I know, man. That'd be fun.
Hella jealous about this.
Oh yeah, no, I just think that it's insane that the previous level excitement that like people had, like globally beloved celebrity before Taylor, that like I could put in comparison, was Michael Jackson.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
And I never thought that I would put like, and I think multiple people would never thought that like, the king of pop would be in the same category as a girl that, started in country and came out of country, and
people forget that.
Yeah,
People forget that she came from country.
Well, that was a controversial topic because she wanted to be a country singer. She wanted to be labeled as a country singer, but more and more her music was like not fitting it. So like the fan, not I don't know if it's the fans, but the music industry shifted her to pop and said, "Hey, you're not a country singer." And I think that's probably why she does a lot of the acoustic stuff, because that makes it a little bit easier to kind of sway that way. But one thing about all this I will say is that, like, yeah, you said like Taylor being the comparable to Michael Jackson, etc. This will date me a little bit, but there was a whole thing way back when Napster first came out, and one of the biggest complaints of Napster was you get the music for free, right? Now, I mean, I know that there's a subscription model, etc., that you can get the music and you just pay a monthly fee, but where's the talk about how, like, because the whole thing was, if you make good music, people will come to your concerts, people will buy your merch, and everything like that. Metallica, Lars Ulrich, I think is one of the main guys who showed, like, was kind of against Napster, and like a lot of celebrities were too. He didn't think that was good enough, and here's Taylor doing exactly that. People are coming out to see her. People are going like above and beyond just to be near her. Right, that's kind of a telling sign that you've made something. And I will say that, like, as much as I don't want to say it, she's going to be classified as one of the singers of our generation, one of the great singers of our
She's going to be a
generation.
legend. She's
Yeah.
definitely going to be a legend.
So
Artist, I'll call her.
I just
Artist.
want to say that like her Eras tour has grossed almost $1 billion.
Just the concert.
Just the tours, and
Wow.
from what I'm reading, I like
$1 billion?
$1 billion. Yeah, and like she's in that conversation.
Does that include merch? I don't know if it tells you that, but I'd be curious.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
To be honest with you, but it's just that wild. I think it's a statement to say when having a conversation about aliens, the Great Roman Empire, and like new technology, like cutting edge technology. No matter how minor tweaks we would think, this would blow our mind.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way to like end this. And I just want everyone to think and ponder a little bit about $1 billion being made from of touring and concerts.
Yeah. That's wild.
That hits a little bit different now.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Well, thanks for joining us, Chitheads. See you next time.
All right. Peace out.
Adios.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. See you again, Chitheads.